The FBI starts sniffing around, starts digging around, starts flipping through pages, looking into the WNBA.
Let's be real. Fans across the country have been shaking their heads all season, watching call after call that simply doesn't make sense. Those jaw-dropping moments where everyone watching blurts out, "How is that not a foul?" Now, there's finally an answer, and it's more unsettling than anyone expected. Several referees have come forward under oath, revealing that the league itself may have been quietly influencing how certain games were called. Their sworn statements trace the orders straight back to Commissioner Cathy. After the recent NBA gambling scandals and player arrests, Stephen A. Smith said it plainly on national TV. If the FBI is investigating the NBA, don't be shocked if the WNBA is next in line.
Why am I glad you're here, Monica? Because don't be surprised if the WNBA is next on his list.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't be surprised if the WNBA is next on his list. Yep. Don't be surprised.
One referee's testimony has become the pulse of this entire investigation. Too much focus on one player damages the league's image. Everyone knows exactly who that was about. This wasn't an offhand comment or a frustrated quote. It was calm, deliberate, and delivered under oath. That changes everything. Because once those words are sworn into record, investigators don't treat them like gossip. They treat them like evidence. For the WNBA, this isn't just another PR nightmare or social media backlash. This is something far more dangerous, a legitimacy crisis. For years, the league has been fighting to grow its audience, to earn respect, to step into the global spotlight. And Caitlin Clark was the engine driving that transformation. So the question becomes unavoidable. Why would the league ever want to slow her down? According to multiple referees, the reasoning wasn't personal. It was strategic. But strategy turns into manipulation the moment it starts shaping outcomes. That's not leadership anymore. That's interference. As investigators dig deeper, one phrase keeps echoing through those referee statements like a warning siren. Protect the league's image. Not protect the players. Not protect fairness. Just the image. For years, WNBA leadership has tried to keep the league balanced. No overwhelming superstars, no dynasties, no teams dominating headlines. Controlled growth. Safe narratives. But basketball doesn't thrive on control. Real growth doesn't come from limiting brilliance. It comes from letting it breathe. When Caitlin Clark stepped into the WNBA, she did what no marketing campaign could buy. She made people care. She didn't need staged storylines or scripted promos. Just her game, her confidence, her fire. And that's what rattled the system. Because suddenly, the league couldn't script the narrative anymore. A real superstar doesn't follow directions. She changes the direction. Instead of embracing that once-in-a-generation momentum, insiders claim the league tried to contain it, to balance the scale, to quietly smooth out her dominance. Not through headlines or interviews, but through subtle, quiet messages on the court. A few missed whistles. A little more contact allowed. Enough to send a silent reminder. Don't let her rise too high. But that kind of control doesn't just limit a player, it risks the soul of the league. Caitlin Clark didn't just join the WNBA. She reignited it. Before her, attendance was steady. Ratings were modest. Then she arrived and everything exploded. Tickets that once cost $15 started selling for hundreds. Arenas sold out. Millions who had never tuned into a women's basketball game suddenly couldn't look away. She wasn't just talented. She was transformational. The kind of athlete that shifts an entire culture. But that kind of brilliance also exposes insecurities. Some veterans felt overshadowed. Some coaches resented the spotlight she commanded. And according to referee testimony, even the league office grew uncomfortable with how quickly the balance of attention had tilted toward one name: Caitlin Clark. She didn't climb the ranks. She rocketed past them. And rather than rising with her, leadership allegedly tried to slow her ascent, hoping to buy time for the league to catch its breath. But greatness doesn't wait. Caitlin never complained, never lashed out, never blamed anyone. She just kept playing calm, focused, relentless. and that quiet composure has now become the sharpest contrast to the chaos unfolding around her. What makes this entire situation hit even harder is the cruel irony behind it. The calmest, most composed player in the room was the one paying the steepest price. Fans could feel it every time Caitlin Clark took the floor. The contact she absorbed wasn't just normal physical play, it was excessive. Elbows, forearm checks, body bumps, shoves off the ball, the kind of punishment that went far beyond standard defense. Physicality is part of basketball, sure, but this wasn't competitiveness anymore. This was permission. According to multiple officials, they were directly instructed to let it play when it came to guarding Clark, to swallow the whistle, to allow more contact, to keep the game flowing even when it crossed the line. But those unspoken guidelines didn't apply to anyone else. She was the only player expected to endure a different rulebook. And that's where competition ends and manipulation begins. The moment fairness turns selective, the truth starts to reveal itself. Every athlete steps onto the court trusting one sacred principle: that officials will protect the integrity of the game. That silent understanding is what keeps players safe and the sport credible. But when that trust collapses, everything unravels. Careers, confidence, reputation, and the soul of the sport itself. All the while, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert sat courtside, composed, smiling, unbothered, as if nothing questionable was unfolding before her. That calm smile sent a message louder than any press statement ever could. She'll be fine. The league's balance matters more than her protection. But that's exactly where the logic falls apart. Leagues don't grow by dimming their brightest lights. They grow by letting them burn brighter. Competitive balance might sound noble on paper, but real parity can't be engineered. It's earned through smart leadership, culture, and time, never through manipulated officiating or silent directives. The referees' sworn testimonies tore away the mask completely. They revealed a leadership culture terrified of dominance, afraid of one player defining the league's image. But history tells a different story. Every great sport has had its defining icons. The NBA had Jordan, the NFL had Brady, tennis had Serena, soccer had Messi. Legends don't shrink their leagues, they expand them. They inspire generations and pull millions toward the game. Instead of championing Caitlin Clark's once-in-a-generation rise, Engelbert allegedly tried to restrain it, to distribute the spotlight evenly, to preserve an illusion of balance, even when the reality on the court said otherwise. But greatness doesn't wait politely for approval. It disrupts, it transforms, it forces evolution. And that's exactly what fans fell in love with, watching something extraordinary happen in real time. So, if the league truly interfered to keep things even, then what we've been watching isn't pure sport. It's performance art. A polished show of equality instead of raw, unpredictable competition. And now that the curtain's been pulled back, the WNBA can no longer hide behind image control or scripted narratives. What began as quiet murmurs among fans and analysts has now turned into a full-fledged investigation. Those referee statements weren't buried. They were reviewed, verified, and passed to ethics officials specializing in sports integrity and misconduct. This is no longer about a few missed calls. It's about whether the league's own leadership altered the very outcomes that should have been decided by players, not politics. Investigators are now drilling into the heart of the controversy, asking the questions that could shake the foundation of the league itself. Did top officials directly instruct referees on how to manage games? Were refs quietly told to allow more physical play specifically against Caitlin Clark? Did certain teams receive subtle, favorable treatment to preserve the illusion of competitive balance? And the biggest question of all, who signed off on those directives? Because someone somewhere had to. Patterns, that's what investigators always chase. If consistent stories, matching officiating data, or internal emails align with the referee's sworn accounts, this stops being a scandal and becomes a potential legal crisis. Engelbert's leadership wouldn't just be under scrutiny, it could be on the line. And if the evidence confirms those suspicions, this won't end with a social media uproar or a PR statement. It'll end with a reckoning. Leadership changes, a top-to-bottom officiating overhaul, and possibly a rewritten rulebook for how the WNBA governs itself. The NBA has already spent months under a magnifying glass. Gambling probes, player investigations, and mounting concerns that outside interests may have influenced outcomes on the floor. And when one league's integrity comes into question, the scrutiny spreads. Oversight doesn't stay contained, it ripples outward. So now, as investigators study suspicious officiating trends in WNBA games, cross-check referee testimony about top-down game management, and track the surge of public concern, they're not calling it coincidence. They're calling it correlation, a pattern that might point to something systemic. This is no longer just a WNBA image problem. It's a credibility crisis for the entire sport of basketball. Protecting the purity of the game has become more important than protecting any single commissioner, no matter how powerful. And here's the bitter irony. Cathy Engelbert has long been celebrated as the league's great stabilizer, the executive who brought structure, major sponsorships, and record growth to women's basketball. And to be fair, under her leadership, the WNBA's visibility and financial standing have undeniably improved. But if that stability was built on quietly manipulating outcomes behind the scenes, then it wasn't real stability, it was control disguised as order. That distinction matters, because no league earns loyalty through branding campaigns or corporate partnerships. It earns it through fairness, transparency, and the unshakable belief that what happens on the court is real. And right now, that belief, that sacred trust between fans, players, and the game is hanging by a thread. When Stephen A. Smith stepped into the conversation, everything changed. What had been a heated debate within basketball circles suddenly exploded onto the national stage. It was no longer about fouls, fairness, or officiating. It became a conversation about ethics, credibility, and the future of professional sports itself. On live television, Stephen A. didn't tiptoe around the subject. He looked straight into the camera and said what everyone else was afraid to. No league is untouchable. Not even the WNBA. His words carried the kind of weight that forces people to stop scrolling and start listening. And when he turned to his co-host, Monica, and said, "Don't be shocked if the WNBA is next," it wasn't a prediction. It was a warning. Whether deliberate or not, Smith connected the dots for millions watching at home. He voiced the fear that had been quietly growing behind the scenes, that when a sports organization even flirts with manipulated outcomes, the investigators don't wait forever. They come knocking. And this time, judging by how deep this goes, that knock might already be echoing in the WNBA's own hallways. Amid the noise, the headlines, and the speculation, one figure has stayed unshaken: Caitlin Clark. No interviews laced with accusations. No frustratiderants. No social media drama. Just focus. Just basketball. Every time she steps on the court, her calm demeanor speaks louder than any press release could. While executives scramble behind closed doors, rehearsing talking points and spinning narratives, Clark keeps doing what she's always done, leading through quiet strength. Her composure has become its own statement, a mirror reflecting the chaos around her. And that's what makes this moment so telling. The real pressure doesn't belong to her. It belongs to Cathy Engelbert, because one of them leads with authenticity, the other with control. And only one of those approaches. But when analysts revisited the footage, slowing the key possessions frame by frame, the inconsistencies began to surface. Clean defensive stops turned into phantom fouls. Obvious contact vanished into incidental play. If investigators decide to revisit that final series with the referee statements in mind, it could become the case study, the defining exhibit in understanding how Engelbert may have tried to sculpt the league's competitive narrative. Because the moment image takes precedence over integrity, the game stops being competition. It becomes performance. Now the WNBA stands at a defining fork in the road, one that will shape the league's future for years to come. This isn't about a single player. It isn't about one series. If the answer to even one of those questions is no, then the league is facing a full-blown identity crisis, one that cuts to the heart of its credibility. So what happens next? If investigators validate the referee's sworn testimonies, the fallout won't be a matter of if, it'll be when. Engelbert could be forced to step down or be formally removed from office. The officiating department would likely face a complete overhaul, rebuilt from scratch to restore even a shred of public confidence. Transparency wouldn't be a choice anymore. It would have to become written policy. And above all, the league would need to protect and uplift its most valuable stars, not treat them as pawns in a carefully scripted PR illusion. Here's the deeper truth behind it all. Caitlin Clark never sought this chaos. She never asked for scandals, investigations, or headlines filled with controversy. She didn't beg for special treatment or use her platform to call out the league. She simply showed up, worked harder than anyone, and played the game she loves with passion, humility, and unshakable composure. For that alone, she earned respect and deserved protection, not exploitation. Now the ball is in the court of everyone who truly cares about the game. The fans, the players, the sponsors, and the organization itself. The question hanging in the air is simple yet defining. Should Cathy Engelbert continue to hold power? Or is it time for a new kind of leadership? One that prioritizes integrity over image and fairness over control. Because if the league truly believes in equality and justice, the answer is crystal clear. The WNBA doesn't need damage control. It needs accountability. And accountability, no matter how uncomfortable, is always the first step toward real and lasting change.